California earned its nickname from the Sierra Nevada gold that drew miners and settlers west, but the state has ultimately amassed more wealth from black gold, petroleum, than from its early gold rush. When Europeans first arrived in California, Native Americans had already been using petroleum for about 13,000 years, though not for energy purposes. They primarily used oil as a lubricant and to waterproof their canoes. The first oil well in California was drilled in 1865 in Humboldt County. A decade later, in 1876, the state's first oil gusher erupted in the Pico Canyon oil field, located north of Los Angeles, kicking off a statewide oil industry. Following that discovery, Edward L. Doheny struck the massive Los Angeles oil field in 1892, just 35 miles south of Pico Canyon. Doheny is often thought to be the inspiration for the main character in the 2007 film There Will Be Blood. In 1897, the world's first offshore well was drilled from a 300-foot pier in the Pacific Ocean, marking the start of an offshore drilling boom. The discovery of oil in California had a major impact on oil prices, both in the state and across the nation. In 1860, the US produced just 0.5 million barrels of oil. By 1895, California alone was producing 1.2 million barrels. With the new oil supplies from California, along with increased production in Texas and Pennsylvania, the price of oil dropped from $9.60 per barrel in 1860 to just £25 per barrel by 1895. As the 20th century began, oil production in California continued to soar. By 1900, the state produced 4 million barrels, and by 1920, that number had skyrocketed to 77 million barrels. From 1920 to 1930, new oil fields were discovered regularly across Southern California, including in Huntington Beach, 1920, Long Beach and Santa Fe Springs, 1921, Dominguez, 1923, and Inglewood, 1924. Southern California had firmly established itself as the heart of oil production in the United States. The oil boom transformed entire regions, with hundreds of wooden drilling derricks owned by independent speculators. These towering derricks, resembling giant quills, created a stark industrial landscape that clashed with the area's natural beauty. In places like Venice, now Marina del Rey, oil derricks stretched all the way to the shore, alongside residential neighborhoods and pristine beaches. In Huntington Beach and Santa Barbara, rows of derricks jostled for space with sunbathers and lifeguard stands. Although these industrial protrusions seemed out of place against the idyllic California coastline, Los Angeles was still in its early stages, focused on rapid growth rather than aesthetic appeal. In 1930, the Los Angeles Times described the Venice Beach Del Rey oil field. Today, oil derricks stand like trees in a forest. Steam pile drivers roar on many a vacant lot. 180 permits to drill for oil have been given, and 25 more are in procedure. If this fever continues, as it gives every indication of doing, one reasonably may expect to see virtually the entire waterfront line of private properties from Washington Street to 66th Avenue or Playa del Rey dotted with a line of oil derricks. The surge in oil production in California had broader economic implications. The additional oil fields, along with the burgeoning supply from Texas's Spindletop, contributed to an oil surplus, pushing prices down throughout the 1920s. By the mid-1920s, the price of oil had dropped from 28 per barrel to below 10 per barrel, creating significant debate within both the American economy and political landscape. In response, President Calvin Coolidge created the Federal Oil Conservation Board in 1924 to regulate oil production and stabilize the market. However, the American Petroleum Institute, API, representing over 500 oil companies, opposed the program, fearing that it would force many companies out of business. Due to API's resistance, Coolidge's plan never gained traction.